Mr. Wanda, why are you laughing? We're in the new year.
I think we're in the new year.
Yeah.
Okay, we cross over.
Amazing. So on 8th of March 2024, we are celebrating the World International Women's Day, which was under the theme, Invest in Women and Girls, Accelerate Progress. That was the theme of International Women's Day for this year, 2024. And I hope you did enjoy this particular year as women, as we get to see and just look around what we are working on. So I know quite a number of people usually say, no, a woman is supposed to be in the kitchen and you can't do nothing. But I'm super excited for a topic of discussion for today as we are looking at women in employment. An amazing topic. So please do inform all your neighbors, your colleagues, and just every woman around you that we are live on Labor Matters right here on KBN TV so that we can get to talk and just have a discussion about a topic of discussion for today. Because we also want to find out how is it for you to have unemployment, just to work. How is it? Are you facing any challenges or anything of sort? So all you have to do is use the number which is right on your TV screen and let's get talking. Mr. Kamanda, starting with you as an employment expert in this country, how do gender biases impact the recruitment process and what challenges do women commonly face in such kind of a situation?
Yeah, so when it comes to women who are going to enter the labor market, it's important to understand that the gender biases are usually going to be there, and these are things that you really have to now deal with and find a way to make sure that those things are reduced. These biases, they come from some long traditions. Remember, in the olden days, the men will go out hunting, they'll bring the food home, and the woman is really there at home and taking care of the children. Then we went to the era where now it's more of agriculture. Again, the men are going to till the land. The women will be there to help with, planting, and still back home taking care of the children and the husband. Now, with industrialization and more women being introduced to workplaces, you then have more and more women joining the workforce. And as you know now, we have a lot of women now in employment. But you also have to understand that the biases, for some people, they still believe that a woman's place, like you were saying, could be in the kitchen. So to see a woman coming to join, it becomes a challenge. And you find that some supervisors, some managers or recruiters, they may even hold views that no, a woman cannot do this kind of job and a woman cannot do this kind of a job. So let's look at two different aspects. We have, let's say, manufacturing industry or the mines, the construction. Again, this is a place where our colleagues do some heavy kind of jobs. But even in those sectors, when you deal with the biases and allow yourself to just look at a woman like as a person, you can still go ahead and hire the women in those places. And there are so many of these companies that actually do hire women in these the mines, construction, manufacturing. We have women who are even operators. We have women who are engineers and so on. So it is important that even in such sectors where predominantly the sector will be really for men, it's important to also really encourage and have more women joining such sectors. When it comes to the corporate world where you are really in the offices and so on, even there sometimes during recruitments, there could be biases that could work against a woman joining the company. Even when the work is really on the computer, or you are writing things, or you are using certain machines. So even at that point, it's important for recruiters and employers to still think through how they encourage, women more women to actually join these professions and these institutions. So the recruitment biases that are there, like we've said, sometimes they come because of personal experiences. You find that the recruiter, for some reason, just believes that a man is better. If a recruiter has got that kind of a bias, it simply means that every time they are doing recruitment, they are going to be biased towards recruiting men rather than women. Sometimes some people have got certain experiences where maybe they hired one woman at some point or a female, and then it turned out maybe that person didn't perform very well. So then now they create these biases against every other woman, and they just think, no, women are just the same. But just like men cannot be the same, even women cannot be the same. So it's important to look at these biases in the recruitment process, because they actually affect the number of women that get to join. And when we look at even the employment code, it's very clear. If you have to recruit people, the law requires that you do not discriminate based on gender. And so this is really an emphasis to our colleagues in human resource, the employers also, just to really make sure that they give a platform where it's equal platform for both women and men. As long as it's a job that can be done by either a man or a woman, women should be encouraged to apply.
Well explained, Mr. Panda. Ms. Kalua, coming to you, I believe you faced quite a number of challenges when you were on probation. So I would just like to find out, what obstacles do women encounter during probation, and how can organizations provide additional support?
Okay. So when it comes to probation, a lot of, for example, like Mr. Kawanda spoke about industries like mining industries, manufacturing. If a woman joins that organization, sometimes, she wants to prove that she belongs there. And so she's working maybe extra hard, long hours, and this tends to affect her health, and it also tends to affect work-life balance. So you find that somebody is in trying to prove themselves that they belong there, and then, they should make it, and probation, they should pass. They end up forsaking certain things, like their work-life balance, and also maybe even their homes. You find that maybe they're working longer hours than needed. And now you're being asked, why are you working so long? I know that you're only supposed to work for 8 hours. Why are you here at 20? Why are you knocking off at 20? And so these are some of the things that affect women when it comes to probation. They want to prove that they belong in these places, and then it becomes detrimental for them, because most of the times we do suffer from imposter syndrome. You ask yourself, do I really belong here? Do they see my contribution? Am I supposed to be here? And so you're now trying by all means to show everybody that, I can do it. I'm a team player. You're getting on more work from your colleagues for you to be able to show that, I belong here. And I feel like most of the times why it happens like that is because organizations have not put in place proper criterion on how somebody will be evaluated during their probation. So that somebody knows and says, okay, when I do this and that, I'll be able to, pass my probation. So when things are vague, it makes it very difficult for people to know on what criteria am I going to be evaluated on. And so it's very important for organizations to help women, when they come into this space, especially when they are under, represented. You need to be able to create the space where that, okay, we're going to support you in whatever way that we can, help you to have this work-life balance, help you to have the tools that you need to be able to perform and to be able to pass your probation if need be, and also to be able to support in any other way. Because most of the time somebody will come in and maybe they are a parent or they are married, and it differs, For a man, it's easier to just get up and say, okay, I want you to go to Mongo tomorrow. You just tell the wife, no, I'm going to Mongo tomorrow. But, when it's a woman, she has to think about who's going to stay with the children if they're not married. If they're married, they have to talk to their husbands. No, this is what's happening. They start asking, why Mongo? Why this? So there are a lot of things that have to be put in place in order to support women when they're coming into these spaces, and to have these policies that are equitable, whereby they help to be able to make the environment conducive, such that, more women are able to join your organization and be able to bring in, another perspective and more value to it.
Amazing. To our viewers, if you want to get in touch with us, use the number which is on your TV screen and get to send us a text message. Today we're looking at an important topic, which is women in employment. That is what we are looking at today. So please, in the studio, I am with an employment expert. If you have any questions as a woman about a topic of discussion, this is your opportunity to send in those. You always feel shy to talk to your colleagues, maybe at the office, your bosses and whatnot. But Mr. Kawanda is in the studio so that he can, tackle all the questions which you've been having. This is your opportunity. Please just get in touch with us. No call, just text messages. Now, Mr. Kawanda, coming to you again. According to the 2024 pay scales and your gender pay gap reports, gender wage gap still exists. And with women receiving less than men, how should women put themselves in a position to negotiate for fair compensations?
Yes, it's unfortunate that even this year, when the report came out, it still shows that there's those gender gap in terms of the wages that females do receive compared to men. Mm-hmm. The issue is, like we said, there are historical issues that first of all we have to look at, where the women are coming from and where the men are coming from. Historically, like we said, even when the women were really joining the workforce, they will be there ready to bring food and so on. So you find that there's already that gap, even in terms of the skills, in terms of even the personalities, in terms of even how you start to negotiate. And then you have these traditions also where some people might still be looking at women as being less, and therefore they should not really be receiving a lot of money. There could be employers who believe, no, a woman after all will be married, so if just give her something small, the husband probably will provide. So you have these things that you have to really consider, and it is showing, like in the report that you've talked about for 2024. So for us, really the encouragement for women is, as they go into these jobs, it's important that you really sit down and do a lot of research. We've talked about preparation for interviews. Now, when you're going for these interviews, it's important to know what is it that you're going to be asking for. What is the market rate? So try to find out, because sometimes people just wake up, oh, I've been called. And these are like the things we've talked about in the past, where you have been invited for interviews, but you don't take time to now research on the company, research what the salaries could be around your profession and so on. Ask around. There are people who could actually assist. There are consultants with the information on salary surveys that are done in the country. So it's important that you have some idea, at least, of what is the possible salary range, so that even when you go into those interviews and they're asking you how much are you expecting, you can put across the information that is required. Now, that is on one end. On the other side, it's really on the employer side. For the employers, one of the things that is a challenge is that we have two types of employers. We have employers with no salary structures, and we have employers with salary structures. Now, we've said this time and again, even on this platform, that we encourage employers to put in place salary structure. Why? When you look at these things that are coming up, where we have even such reports that women are getting less, it's because you are dealing with some companies where there are no salary structures. So what starts to happen is that the person walks in, they start to negotiate the salary. No, me, I can get paid this amount, me, I can get paid this amount. And these are the things that create salary distortions, because this one, because they smile better, maybe you give them 20,000. This one, I'm not very happy, you 11,000. But it should never be like that. And these are the problems. And because, like I said, when you look at the cultural aspect, the women some women really might not be exposed to how to negotiate for salaries. They will come into that meeting, they are already defeated. Then you have some other person who is the employer there already decided that they should be paying less. But when you are in a company now where you have actually these salary structures, the salary structures, they basically remove all these biases. Because what happens with the salary structures? You're going to have, let's say, the CEO, the salary for the CEO, the managers, or the directors or chiefs or whatever they are called, the heads of departments, the senior officers, the officers, all the way to our colleagues at the lowest level, maybe the drivers and the general workers. So we have those job grades, which also, to those job grades, you have attached salary, entry salaries. So what this means is that when you have those salary structures, it really doesn't matter whether it is a man, it's a woman standing in front, as long as they passed your interviews, they have fulfilled all your requirements, they have the qualifications, they have the experience, you're no longer looking at their face. You are simply saying, okay, here, officer, the entry salary is 15,000, as an example. That's the amount you're giving them. Regardless, they could be, during the interviews, they could even have said, I want to get paid 27,000. Or the person, because they maybe didn't know better, they said, no, I'm looking for just 7,000. Now, because there's a salary structure, for that grade where this officer is 15,000, you're not going to offer them the 7,000. Even if that woman or man, in this case, actually mentioned the lower salary, you will give them that 15, which is in that grade. So the use of salary grades or salary structures, it actually helps a lot in removing these distortions which affect women a lot. Because like we've said before, when this woman comes into the company and they see that they're getting 10,000 and the male colleagues are getting 21,000, clearly she's going to be frustrated because now she sees, oh, okay, so this, even when maybe just at the time she didn't negotiate better, she will now say, okay, so here, men should be paid more. And that now leads to frustration, and you're not going to get the best out of that woman. So it's important for employers, and our emphasis to the employers, put in place salary structures that allow you to make sure that you are fair in your salary and your compensation practices. And if you don't know how to do those things, that's why consultants are there. Simply call them, they will sit down, look at your company, what are you trying to achieve, what are your salaries like, what are you able to pay, your revenues, and they do those things, which is a very simple thing.
Amazing. Looking forward to having a positive report next year. I mean, we can't continue crying for fairness in companies. Now, coming to you, Ms. Kalwa, in what ways are women impacted by workplace conditions? Like when we talk of maternity leave policies, and what challenges arise during this return to work? Because I believe some people feel like, okay, going back, you feel like this is your first time being at the office, coming back from your leave. But just your take on this one.
Okay, so there's a lot there to unpack. There's a lot there to unpack, Patricia. So you find that, I've had reports and conversations with some women who, when they got pregnant, promotions passed them because, the employer felt, oh no, this person is going on maternity leave, so that they are not going to be able to do their job or something like that. What this does to the employee is that it demotivates them, It demotivates them and it makes them feel like the organization is not caring and the organization doesn't see their contribution, and so they don't want to, support them when they're now passing through this life-changing phase. So these phases are, whether we like it or not, especially with the, the generation coming up, we have now people who are now in the childbearing years. And so as an organization, you need to plan for this, You need to plan on maternity leave, you need to plan paternity leave. You need to see what else can we do as an organization to help our employees who are going to be passing through this, life changes. So you find that maybe somebody has been passed a promotion just because they're pregnant. That demotivates that employee, and also it demotivates the others who are seeing that, because when you know that, okay, maybe one day I might be pregnant, so this is how they're going to treat me. So you find that, by doing such, you are demotivating everybody in the organization, and also the male counterparts will be able to see, so if my wife also this happens, this is how they're going to treat them, so why should I work for an organization that is doing such? So in a way, it starts to affect motivation. It starts to affect how relations are, employee relations in the workplace. Also, when a woman comes back from maternity leave, in the Employment Code Act, they do talk about nursing breaks, whereby in the first 6 months, they're supposed to be given either, 30 minutes break, 30 minutes break, or you give them an hour for them to be able to nurse their children. And so as an employer, you need to put these things in place. As you are starting, you need to know that, okay, I am going to have people who might become parents, so how do I deal with this? So you can put in place, we've seen others have put in place that, if somebody within the first 6 months, they can either come an hour late, or they can leave an hour early, so that they're able to meet that nursing break. So, when you're putting in such things, although they are in the Employment Code Act, but when you're practicing them, and then you even do better, you maybe help, you could even put aside to say, okay, in the first 6 months, we'll be helping you with, paying for a nanny, so that, that burden, you don't have that huge burden on your head thinking, okay, who's going to stay with my child now that I'm coming back to work? These are certain things that will be able to motivate your employees, especially women. And even the men, they'll be able to say, okay, this is how it's been done. I would love to continue to work for such an organization, because they are looking at how they can improve the lives of their employees and also motivate them. So, you put in place such things, and in turn, it will be able to help you to draw more people. Because, people talk. They'll be able to say, this organization, this is how they treat us. When you go on maternity leave, you don't have to worry about your job. You don't have to worry about a promotion. If you deserve it, you will get it, because you're working hard. And imagine if an organization is able to support you through such a life-changing phase. It's highly likely you're going to be loyal. You'd say, you know what, I was thinking of giving them 1 year, I can give them 4 more years. 5 years solid, I'm here with this organization. So these are some of the things that employers don't tend to see. They just see it as, no, this person will be on leave for this period of time, and no, I'm going to lose out. I have to get somebody to come in and cover for them. They're looking at the cost side, but they're not looking at the benefit side of how, at the end of the day, what you're doing to this employee, others are going to see. They're going to tell other people, and you will become an employer of choice just by setting certain, policies in place that help with such.
Well explained, Ms. Calvert. Mr. Wanda, coming to you, if we can also talk about issues of Mother's Day. I think these are some of the issues which are still affecting women in workplaces. Can an employer restrict who uses this day off and how it is used? Because we're still celebrating women in workplaces. I mean, these are issues that women still face in workplaces. Like, okay, I can't be given this leave, I can't be given this off day. My employer is restricting me, but how can we deal with such kind of a situation as women?
Yes, so the issue of the, I know this topic never goes, issue of Mother's Day. Mother's Day, first of all, let's start with where it starts from. It is given by law. So when you look in Zambia at the Employment Code Act number 3 of 2019, when you go to that section 47, it's very, very clear on what Mother's Day is all about. The Mother's Day is given to a female employee. Again, we are saying a female employee. Let's start with breaking down these things. It's given to a female employee, and it's 1 day off every month. And this 1 day off, the employee does not need to bring a medical certificate, and they do not need to give a reason to the employer. So now let's look at these 3 things. Female employee, no medical certificate, no reason to the employer. These have got serious impact on how we treat this day. I know, first of all, that, like we said, some employers actually say they don't like this day. Hence, some of them, they say, I would rather not even employ females in this company. But it should never be like that. We actually encourage employers, if there's an opportunity to employ, like we've said at the very beginning, if you can employ women, employ them. It's because sometimes we start behaving like as we were not born from women. No, I can't. Anyway, you're also forgetting that there was a woman who brought you on this earth. And if also this woman working with you, they may bring other people on this side. So it's important to be very realistic. Of course, you have to balance the needs of the business, but some jobs really don't need just a man to do them. So let's look at getting back to the issue of what the Mother's Day is all about. It's a day that the women have been given one day every month for them to be off. And like we said, there is no stipulation of how old this female employee. First of all, it's female employee, that's number one. It's not applicable to male employees. It's female employees. Secondly, it does not say it is a woman or it's a mother, someone who's someone who has a child. Because these are the confusions we always, this one is a youngster, so they are below 25, or this one doesn't even have a child. No, the law under that section does not say that this is a day off for someone who has a child. It simply says a female employee. The other issue to think about is that it also has not given any age limit. When you read that section, it's a very simple section. There are no complications in that section 47. There is nowhere in the line where you see, no, it says someone, if they reach age of 45 or when they stop menstruation and whatnot. There is no such a thing in that law. So these things that we put and we start expanding the law and shrinking the law, there is nothing. The issue is it says female employee. The other issue is that for that day, the female employee is entitled to that one day, but that day is actually also just for purpose of clarification. It's not cumulative. So again, for women, for female employees, you cannot say, no, because I didn't go last month, so now I'm taking two more days this month. You see, it's one day given per month. Now, what is the use of this one day? They'll just tell you I'm on Mother's Day. Of course, that ideally we are saying should not be the case. We also expect some level of responsibility from our female employees, where let's have some order. You can fill in a form or whatever, where you're just jotting down to say you're away, or at least you inform the supervisor, rather than also just going missing when now they are calling you. That's when now you say, no, I'm actually on Mother's. No, again, we expect some level of professionalism and really just maturity even as we deal with these matters. So both from the employer side, we have explained on the employer side that this is a provision in the law, and it's just important that each employer takes time to understand that provision and then just allow employees, female employees to take leave. Also, it's important to take note, to keep some record, because we have also been in some workshops where supervisors have complained that because there's no record, sometimes female employees will take advantage and go twice because the supervisor is so busy. The person will go at the beginning of the month, the supervisor will forget, then close to the end of the month and say, no, I never went this month. So again, on the part of the employers, we advise and we advise that yes, they could keep some record. But again, that record is not for approval. We are saying a record. This is just either online, the person will just indicate that they are away, or it's a book or whatever it is that they are using in the company. But that is not with a provision to approve, because Mother's Day does not require approval. All our colleagues, the female employees, again, like I said, it's just important that you also take responsibility, communicate with the supervisor even beforehand, so that they could put in place some ways to make sure that the business continues running on such a day when you are going to be away as a female employee, so that there is no disruption. Otherwise, we should not be having complications. Again, this Mother's Day does not only apply to people working in offices, because these are things we have heard in a lot of these workshops. No, us in factories, that can't apply. No, us in construction, that can't apply. No, the law did not put categories. They just said female employee to be off one day. So it's really important just to put all these things in place.
Well, articulated, Mr. Kavan. To our viewers, if you still have questions or maybe concerns on Mother's Day issue, you can still send in your questions using the number which is right on your TV screen. I know some people still have questions and concerns from their organizations when it comes to Mother's Day, but please feel free to send those questions.
We hope it is not clear.
I know there's still someone who still wants to ask a question about Mother's Day. No, coming to you, Ms. Kalwa. I know when it comes to promotion, sometimes women may find it challenging to rise to positions of authority in most organizations. Now, what is the problem and how can they get around such issues in organizations?
Okay. One thing that I can talk about is unconscious bias. This is very common, you know. Like you said, some men think, no, this person should, you know, be in the kitchen, or maybe this person should not rise above because they, you know, they might have a husband and he'll take care of them. So let me give the promotion to the man, you know, because he's taking care, you know, because he's taking care of the family. So these are the unconscious bias that, you know, some women will face. And when they ask why they haven't, you know, maybe they say, look, they bring their reports and say, look, I have been able to achieve these targets. My KPIs have been able to meet them. I'm able to deal with the team, this and that, but why haven't I been given the promotion? And you find that maybe the employer has no reason why. It's just that they're female. And so this usually it will demotivate not only that employee, but also the others. And also, how would the male counterpart feel that they were only promoted because the other person is a female, and not because they worked hard and, you know, they deserve the position? So these are some of the, you know, roadblocks that women do face when it comes to promotions in certain workplaces. And the other thing would be on training and development. Some will come, but, you know, they keep seeing people rising, going to school, being given opportunities for trainings, you know, and they're just being left behind. So this creates a demotivated workforce, and it creates an unbalance in the way that, you know, the organization is working. The other one is also just this unconscious bias also comes with other people. They fear that, no, if we put this person in the position of authority, the men will fail to report to this person or to respect this person. And so it becomes a challenge. Now they have to think, okay, no, maybe if we don't, you know, if we put this person there, they're not going to manage, they will fail. So let's just put a man who the other fellow men are going to respect. But the thing is that if you don't expose people to, you know, females in leadership, it becomes hard for them to, you know, in future, for you to bring somebody to take over that position. So exposure is very important. It helps for everybody to be able to relate with a female supervisor or manager. And also we find networking. Most women find it very hard for them to network in these organizations or even outside, because, you know, there are so many things. Work-life balance comes into play, you know, even just opportunities. If there's a meeting that is happening maybe at Avani, you'd find they'll say, no, let maybe John and George go. And then they leave the female behind. And then now it makes it hard for her to network, to be able to, you know, gain more exposure, more knowledge from other counterparts in the same industry. So these are some of the things that affect promotions for women in workplaces.
Well explained. Mr. Kawanda, coming to you. Ms. Kalwa did mention saying that sometimes women may find it difficult to supervise men, because I would say, I mean, why should I be working under a woman? I'm a man. A woman is supposed to be led by men. Why should I be supervised by a woman? If you have any word of advice to people that have such a perception, saying that women can't lead, it's only men, what advice do you have for such people who have such kind of a perception?
Well, looking at it from two different angles. So the first part really on the people with such kind of perception, that is really outdated. in this day and era, really anybody can lead, be it male or female. So if you are a man or a woman who's being led by a female, it's just to understand that that person is in that position at that point. And then you're actually looking at the position without necessarily looking at the gender of the person who is having that position. Because at the end of the day, it's the position that you are actually answerable to. Even if tomorrow they put a man or they put a woman, if you are a junior reporting to that person, you should understand that you need to give the respect to the position that the person holds. And so it is really, it's not even helpful. If anything, you should even be charged for insubordination if you're found to be not listening to the person holding a particular position simply because they're female. No, it's totally unacceptable. In modern age, it's really about the position. That is what really matters. You follow what is being said. On the other side, like I said, there are two issues to look at. On the other side is also our colleagues, the one actually holding that position, the female. It's also important, we need to encourage those people having such kind of higher position where they're supervising others to also invest in learning. That's why I encourage people, come for trainings, invest in understanding management and leadership. This issue again of just using emotions. We've seen people, yes, you have a position, but zero leadership. And you're just shouting at everyone, and that's now what creates all these problems and bad perceptions, where people simply say, you see, the woman is just shouting. Maybe it is, there are a lot of bad things that people say. You don't need that. Invest in learning, how do I actually manage? Position in Yano, Mama. But do you have now the ability to influence others, to communicate well, and to make sure that the whole team, all the members work really as a team? That is what is important. That's why over and above what we're saying is invest in learning, humble yourself, know how to lead the people, know how to lead the people above you, know how to lead the people below you, so that in that way you can actually succeed. And people eventually will not even look at the gender issue. They'll simply say, we have a leader who is leading us, and they willingly apply themselves.
Well explained. Now, Ms. Kalwa, coming to you again, sometimes women themselves do not like being supervised by another woman. I think I have heard quite a number of women saying, I don't like working under a woman. I would rather being led by a man. We have such people with such kind of a perception as well. So what is your advice to such women who also don't want to be led by another woman?
Okay. One thing that I can say is that most of the times, like Mr. Kamanda has mentioned, when you invest in leadership, most times some women might think that if they are maybe soft to their fellow women, they'll be looked at as weak. And so they have to, assert that dominance to show that, okay, I'm not weak, I'm able to do this and that. But that in turn creates the animosity. So what women need to do is to work together, say that they are not in competition. How they treat their fellow women is how the men will also learn how to treat, the women. Because now if a fellow woman is able to, do certain acts that are bad, then how would the male counterparts learn? They'll also think, okay, it's okay for me to do the same. So it starts with us as women, to treat our fellow women the way we would like them to be treated by the male counterparts, and to learn how to lead. I know sometimes that emotions would come in and all these other things, but like Mr. Kawanda has mentioned, investing in, leadership, investing in emotional intelligence, and just learning how to be able to, lead the whole team and not just one particular gender. It will give them the confidence to be able to not feel intimidated or to be looked at as, having some favoritism or anything like that. Once they're able to deal with the same way they deal with the male counterparts, is the same way they deal with the females, it creates that balance to show that this is a leader. It doesn't matter who you are. If you do something right, you'll be praised. If you do something wrong, you'll be charged or reprimanded, whichever it would be.
Amazing. Mr. Kwanda, coming to you again, I believe there are still some challenges women usually face when it comes to maintaining work and life balance. Maybe you can give an example of marriages and work. How can an organization get to contribute to overcoming such kind of obstacles which women usually face in workplaces?
Yeah. So when it comes to the work-life balance, the interest of time, I'll try to summarize. It's a huge topic on its own, and it's actually something that requires a lot of time. But let's look at it from the beginning. When the female employee is actually employed, one of the things we do advise, especially during trainings that we undertake, is you need to, first of all, from the one, think through how you pace yourself. Okay, because there are times that you start work, and yes, your contract gives you 8 to 17 or whatever time is on your contract. Because of what Ms. Kalwa was talking about, you're really trying to prove yourself, you're going over and above and doing all sorts of things. Now, you create an impression and you create a standard. And now, if you want to come and change that, it becomes a challenge, because now you'll be seen to be ineffective. So starting from the beginning, the standard you put in terms of your performance, we are not saying you should not put in more work, but do your level best. But key to it is pace yourself so that you have time for work. Also, you create some time for the family. It is extremely important, because what starts to happen, the more you actually start to do more work, the work actually will be demanding more and more of your time. Now, this is where we see that the family now, or your partner, starts to now feel that now you're investing too much time in the work compared to you taking responsibility. And remember, the female employee, just like a male employee, the more they work, the more they receive praises, the more they are recognized, and that starts to go to your head, because you are craving for that. So you apply yourself so much, but at the expense of your relationship with your partner or your children, if you have children, and so on. So it's really important that from the beginning, you pace yourself in a manner that is sustainable. The other issue to also look at is that in trying to balance this work-life thing, it's not easy. You also have to look at what will be the expectation from the supervisors. It's also important that you engage them, because sometimes there's what we call the case of efficiency. The more efficient you become, the more work gets to be given to you, and that now starts to take you away. So have conversations with the supervisor, especially when you see that you are now leaning way more than might be required on work. Because what starts to happen as you build so much in your career, your family starts to break. By the time you're coming back to try and mentor your family, it's way too late. So in the process, you become a very frustrated person. And that starts to show even the way you lead the people, you'll be shouting all over the place. It's not necessary. So it's important that you try and balance the family life or your personal life with work. But also, the other aspect to look at is even your health. It's important really, again, to look at your health, because sometimes the more you do, because remember, there's a lot of burnout that happens. So psychologically, you want to deliver on this, you want to deliver on that. So in the process, you're really not having even any time for yourself and for your health. That again can start really making your health to go down. Unfortunately, employment is employment. If you are going to end up dying tomorrow, the company has a speech. We can even read it for you in advance. We don't even know how we are going to replace this person. She was the most hardworking. They just change the name,
just like that.
So it's important that really you invest in trying to balance these needs. Also, it's important also to be open about the kind of work you're doing, especially with your family, because what creates problems in these workplaces is where people start to invest so much time. You have gone for workshops, you have gone for that, you have done this, and the family doesn't even know what you're really doing. So in some cases, suspicions start to happen. And as suspicions start to happen, now things start to just go apart and apart and apart. So it's a big job. It's a tough thing. That's why I said usually we take a lot of time to, especially during the trainings, to help women to really find that balance. It's not an easy thing.
Well explained,
Yeah.
Mr. Kanda. Coming to you, Ms. Kalba, in the interest of time, maybe just under a minute, what are some of the challenges women face during disciplinary matters, and how can organizations get to create fair processes?
Okay. So most of the times you'd find that there's no representation when it comes to these disciplinary procedures. So you'd find that maybe if there was a female maybe on the panel, it would be easier for the woman to explain to a fellow woman on exactly maybe what happened, and they'll be able to have that other, bring in that other voice to be able to help in the proceedings. So also some women have not been given the opportunities or to be trained when it comes to, these disciplinary issues or how to handle grievances. And so they're just being seen as these emotional people. And the other thing also is just emotional intelligence. This has to be emphasized, especially when they're going to be on a panel for a disciplinary procedure or on the other end. You need to be able to look at facts and not use emotions. So these are things that are learned. You just don't have it. So women need to invest in, learning and also just being emotionally intelligent and looking at facts, and that would help with the whole procedure.
Thank you very much. Coming to you, Mr. Kavanda. Grievance procedures. How are women's grievances treated in workplaces? Maybe especially when it comes to sexual and other forms of harassment, because we're still having to get to learn that such things usually happen in workplaces when it comes to issues of harassment, sexual harassment, and just around such kind of situations. And it's very much, I don't know how hard it's been for women to just come out and say, okay, I'm being harassed, sexually harassed by my colleague or maybe my employer and whatnot. It's hard to come out as women. Maybe if you can just get to comment about such kind of a situation.
Yeah, again, Patricia, that's a very big topic actually.
Under a minute.
We hope one day we will have time to actually break those things down. But it's important to understand that, yes, sometimes female employees really, because of fear of losing a job, especially if they are the only ones maybe taking care of the children or parents and so on, they may not come out. So they end up now undergoing such kind of harassment. But it's important for them to also know that actually the law is on their side. When you go to the Gender-Based Violence Act of 2011, and just under Section 3 there, just read what the harassment means. For the men out there, you can actually run away because the law is very strict when it comes to harassment. So it's important to understand that they have the right, and where you feel that you are not happy, again, let your no be no. These are the problems that also we see sometimes where, we need also, as women, to learn to make things very clear. When you're not comfortable with something, simply put it across. No, I'm not happy with this. And it ends there.
Maybe it's a situation where one is scared they might lose this job. And
have a conversation. And again, this is where we encourage people to attend the workshops, because those are things that are covered in detail in terms of the process that you should follow. But you should also, like we've said, when you discuss, and it's not a confrontation, tell the person that you are not happy with something. Because like we said, remember, beyond 18 years, you are all adults. So if you have agreed certain things, you want to have fun, that's your business. But when you don't want to have that fun anymore, or you just don't want it, make it very clear to the other person. Again, let's even remove this cousinship thing. I know, like us Bebas and Chipata people, make things very clear that no, here this is a no, it's a no. And also don't initiate anything, because what starts to happen, again, it's an encouragement to employers. If female employees bring up an issue where they feel they are being harassed, the employer has a responsibility to actually take care of that employee and make sure that those issues are brought to conclusion.
Before we read some of the text messages which we've received, what obstacles, Mr. Kawanda, do women encounter during staff separations, and how can organizations get to minimize the negative impact?
Yes, so really, at the time of separating again, a female employee sometimes could face a big challenge because they might not end up being hired and whatnot. But it's really important that the employer does everything in a professional manner, give the employee that certificate of employment, and pay them everything that is due. They don't need to be begging or finding a way to entertain someone for them to get paid what is due to them. It's just important that the employer conforms with the requirements of the law.
Amazing. If you can read just this text message. Good afternoon. Parity and equity is key to development. Could you explain what the report shows about the pay gap in institutions with salary structures and those without? This one is coming from Kasia in Chongwe.
Okay, so in the interest of time, we'll not go in the details of the report. Please just Google the pay scale report for 2024. You'll find the full report.
Your last remarks, Ms. Kaluva.
Okay, my last remarks would be that, like the theme for this year, investing in women, it will accelerate progress. So as employers and as employees, I can just, encourage everybody to be able to employ women. If it's possible, employ as many as you can. And as employees, let us make sure that we are able to contribute positively to these organizations so that we can do it even for the next generation that is coming through.
Amazing. Mr. Kamande, last remarks.
It's just to really appreciate the employers who have given female employees a chance to be employed, and also to encourage managers and supervisors and CEOs to really just make sure that women are supported. And like Kadova said, it's also important for female employees to apply themselves, invest in learning skills that really help you to grow in your career and manage things well. And just know we are proud of you, and we can only wish you the very best.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To our viewers, thank you very much for watching Labor Matters right here on KBN TV. In the studio, I was with Mr. Owen Katongo Kaband, who is Management and Leadership Advisor, who is also an employment expert and neuropsychologist. And I was also joined by Ms. Pinga Kaluba, who is Talent and Administration Manager